Let me guess, you signed up for every free lead magnet and binged on every marketing YouTube video and thought, what am I missing? Why isn't my business exploding like that? Well, I can tell you, you're not alone. Whether you're just getting started or have an established business, entrepreneurship can be really lonely. But it doesn't have to be. Overcoming your fear of launching or building your personal brand or figuring out how to scale, it shouldn't be holding you back. It should be empowering you. On this podcast, we're going to deep dive into the mechanics of what it takes to build your brand, make your mark, and stake your claim in the digital marketing space. I'll be chatting with people from all walks of life and stages in their careers. I will be getting inspiration from real experts who will share their actual strategies and techniques to grow loyal and raving followings and sell more stuff. This is entrepreneurship from people who are already there making it happen. My name is Jeff Mendelson. Join me and welcome to the One Big Tip podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. Today, I'm really pleased to have Matt Scarfo on the line with me. He is a fitness center owner in New Jersey. He's also a life changer, human movement and corrective exercise expert, endurance athlete, potentialist, and infinite thinker. So out of all those things, Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
So Matt, you, through your fitness center, you actually have a lot of, there are a lot of things going on in that you're not just a person who, you're not just doing personal training type things. You're actually taking the exercises and the mindset that you apply to your own fitness and you bring it to the fitness center itself. In fact, yesterday you ran from Morristown, New Jersey to the New Jersey Capitol. What is that, like 50 some, like 60 miles?
It's about 57 miles, just shy of 57 miles.
Why?
That's a great question. I did it, one, because I can, and two, because I felt like people like me needed something to be done in order to bring awareness to the challenges and the issues that we feel right now. As a business owner, my business was required to shut down. As a breadwinner for my home, I was, forced to cease all operations, and that basically put a squash on any income that I was bringing into the home. And I know that a lot of people out there feel very much the same way and are having a really hard time holding it together. So I ran not only on behalf of my own and my family's own, I guess, struggles with all of this, but I ran on behalf of everybody else that was feeling very much the same way. And I'm glad that it's garnered the attention that it has, and it's brought, these issues a little bit more into the limelight. It's forced people to ask me questions, and it's forced me to answer them. And I'm happy to have done it and shed some light on this, because I know that it's affecting a lot of people's lives.
So this actually segues into your one big tip, right? In that, from what I gather, you're not one of those people that looks for excuses, right? You go out and you do it. You do it to the point where you push your endurance to the limit. Let's talk about your one big tip. The suffering doesn't get any worse as long as you don't go back. Mm-hmm. How does that work in terms of when you're doing some kind of endurance activity, right? So you ran that whole 57 miles. I have to imagine at some point you were like, F this. I wanted to turn back, right? How did you apply that? How did you take that experience and use that energy to push forward as opposed to just giving up and calling an Uber back home?
Sure. So it was very much a one foot in front of the other thing. What I've noticed is, in a lot of the endurance things that I do, and even the way that I coach my clients, is that, number one, you've got to be present in what you're doing. And there's a very fine line between the future and the past. And that presence, that flow exists in that small gap in between. And for me to try to stay in that space for the entire run really kept me on task and kept me going. There was a number of times that I said that this is crazy, this is ridiculous, I should give up by now. This is going to take me all day to do. Fact is that in my mind, one of the things I kept repeating to myself over and over while I was running was kind of a personal insight, was and I would say this out loud, is I'm already there, bro. I'm just waiting for you to show up. I'm already there, bro. I'm just waiting for you to show up. And that was my mind telling my body that I have already gone through this run 1,000 times in my head. I have already arrived there. My goal was already complete. I'm just waiting for time to catch up to me. And had I stopped at any moment and turned around and gone back, the emotional price that I would have had paid, knowing that I had set out to complete this task and willfully ceased to turn around and do something else, for me, that kind of suffering would have been more than I was prepared to handle. So I had set out on it, ready to complete it. I had finished that race, that run, before I had even started it. So if I were to have quit, I would have thereby had to have changed really the course of my future. My future was already determined. It was success. I had already decided that this had happened. I was just waiting for whether it was, 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the afternoon to come so I could see that finally realized. So for me, the suffering would have only gotten worse had I turned around to run back. I was already committed. I was already going. I was already suffering as much as I was going to. That wasn't going to get any worse. I can tell you from experience that it's 2 days later. I'm barely sore, and I don't want that to be testament to my physical condition. I want that to be testament to everybody's physical ability, in that there's really no difference in the soreness I felt from running 10 miles compared to the soreness that I've run for 50 at 57. And I've never run 57 miles before. Most I ever ran prior to this was just over 22 once. Before that, it was about 14. So I'm not a long distance runner in this regard. This was, for me, major league stuff, and not feeling the same pain that I thought I would feel, multiplied by 5, for me was an indicator that this was certainly something that had to be done, and that my body was really hungering for this. So I think that my pain, my anguish would have been multiplied had I not done this, being that as far as my brain was concerned and this quantum universe, it had already happened. I just had to wait for time to catch up to me.
That's an amazing story. I had a similar experience. Now, I am nowhere near as in shape as you are, right? But what was it, about 3 years ago, I flew to Cape Town, South Africa, and I climbed Table Mountain. I didn't take the cable car up. I went up I got a guide, and we hiked up one of the more challenging trails, right? So they have many trails. There are different ways to go up. And, the guide takes one look at me and he's like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go." Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay." I'm like, "Well, I may not be as fast as some of the other people, but we'll be able to do it." He's like, No, I have all day. Right. We started out the hike at like 5:30, right at crack of dawn. So we're just going up. It was like a massive amount of, rock stairs and all that. 2 amazing things happened that day. One is that this old guy, had to be 90 years old, literally lapped me, right? Like maybe about 2 hours in, he's just walking up, and the guide and the old man knew each other, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm climbing up. Yeah, I do this every week." And I was just, okay, great. This is, so that gave me like that initial push. Like,
Sure.
This old guy can do it. I can do it. About an hour later, this other guy comes walking up, lapping me on this. He's doing this climb, the exact same climb I'm doing, barefoot. Right. And I'm like, okay, come on. How
hard could it be?
Yeah. How hard could this be? So if he's doing it, it's like, that's it. So long story short, it took me 6 hours to get up there.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the time, the guide was telling me that 10-year-olds do this hike faster than I was doing it. But okay, fine. I was paying him for his time. But at the end of the day, it was literally the mountain that I conquered.
Yes.
Right. And it's one of those things that no one can take away. Right. Because, people have done much longer hikes than I have. People have run much longer distances than you have. Right. Mm-hmm. But it's it's a personal triumph for me. And I'm sure for you as well. It's definitely something that you can say, like, okay, yeah, been there, done that. Yeah. Next time, let's just run to New York City.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you a question, because that's interesting. Sure. When you had decided that you were going to club, that the moment that you had decided and you had taken action in that direction, that very first step up the mountain, yeah, I'm going to do it. You were convinced, if even just for a moment, that you were going to climb that mountain, right?
I was convinced.
Right. So all you had to do was maintain that mindset. The body will fall into line. The moment that you convince yourself that you can't climb the mountain, you can't climb the mountain. It's that old, whether you think you can or you think you can, you're right. And it's completely true. So the fact that you would put that into your head, now your brain is there, just like my brain was in Trenton. Now your brain is there just waiting for your body to show up. Now you can just turn this off. If you can turn it off for 6 hours, which is a task in and of itself to turn it, and I had to turn this off for 12 and a half hours. But for me to turn off my brain, because it was already determined that it was there, and just let my body show up, all I had to do was pass the time. And that's all you had to do was pass the time. And there were moments, I'm sure, during your hike where you, I don't know, sang a song in your head or counted your steps of 10 or whatever the case was to keep this out of it. Because your brain had already decided that your body was going to make it. And that's all that was, you made it to the top and everything was right in the world, because that's when the mind and the body, when they come together, they can move mountains or climb them. In your case, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I guess the next step would be after you climb up, well, then don't take the cable car down, right?
Well, you know what? I didn't run back from Trenton.
Right.
I got to ride.
Yeah, so we're pretty much even. All right, that works.
Fair enough.
Matt, that was very inspirational. Thank you so much for that. Why don't you tell people where they can reach you if they want to learn more about you?
Sure. At Matt Scarfo, MATTSCARFO. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram. Right now, I'm probably most active on Instagram and LinkedIn. My YouTube is coming along, and my personal professional website should be up and running shortly. So yeah, you could email me at matt@mattscarfo.com, or search me out on social media. You'll find me, and I'm happy to talk anybody through whatever they're going through. I do a lot of breath work and mindfulness with my clients as well, and I'm always happy to pass it along, pro bono or not. So whatever you need, anybody out there, I'm always happy to come through.
Thank you very much for that, Matt. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for having me.